Well, San Francisco had a big election on Tuesday, March 5th, and we saw some big-time changes around the direction of the Democratic Party and some propositions that were focused on public safety, drug use, and homelessness that actually passed overwhelmingly in San Francisco. So the first big election was for the Democratic County Central Committee. That's basically who's going to control the Democratic Party in San Francisco. And in San Francisco, you have to understand there's only about 30,000 registered Republicans in the entire city. So this city is a deep blue city that has basically three factions of the Democratic Party. You have the Democratic Socialists, you have the Progressive Democrats, and then you have what they've been calling the Moderate Democrats, which are really just progressives that are interested in promoting public safety and reducing homelessness and drug use. That faction, the moderates, we'll call them for this example, won 18 out of the 24 seats on the Democratic County Central Committee, basically pushing out the previous factions of the party that were in control, which were the progressives and the Democratic Socialists, and have now taken over control of the Democratic Party in San Francisco. What does that mean? That means that they now have the power to endorse the candidates that they want to endorse the propositions that they want to endorse, and set the platform for the Democratic Party in San Francisco City and County, which is a huge step to the middle, to the center, from where we had been the last 4 years in San Francisco with the party. In addition to that, there were several different propositions on the ballot in San Francisco. The three that were focused on public safety, one of them was a cop tax, Proposition B, that would have made it so that in order to fund the police and add more police officers, a new tax that would be unspecified would have to be passed at some future date in order to allocate funding for the police, instead of using our already existing $14 billion budget to fund the police appropriately. And right now in San Francisco, we're short about 700 police officers. So there's really no excuse. The money's there. It's just been an ideological battle to actually fund the police after 2020. And that's been the case across the country in many major cities. So that was rejected. And then you had two other propositions that actually, Prop E and Prop F. Prop E granted the police more power. It granted them the authority to start using more surveillance, license plate identifiers on the street, cameras on the street, drones to help them chase perpetrators, etc. And it also weakened the powers of our police commission, which is a deeply radical body in San Francisco, whose primary goal is to weaken the police and their ability to actually pursue criminals, to the point where they actually had passed a rule that made it so that the police could no longer do car chases and actually chase bad guys in San Francisco. So that actually has been in place all this time, and that proposition changes it and allows the police to actually start doing pursuits of criminals that are trying to get away in their getaway car. And if you really think about how insane that is, the police basically were no longer allowed to chase bad guys in this town, and you kind of see the results. We had 26,000 car break-ins last year in San Francisco alone, and property crime has gone way up over the last couple of years in San Francisco. Although now, because we have a better district attorney, you're seeing that plateau and hopefully decline. The last proposition, Proposition F, which is really what I'm excited about, was a proposition that would mandate people applying for general assistance or welfare benefits for single males and females in San Francisco to undergo drug screening to determine whether or not they're addicted to drugs. And if they are addicted to drugs, in order for them to get that welfare money, they would have to access some kind of drug treatment, right? That passed with about 60% of the vote in San Francisco. Even in the most liberal enclaves of San Francisco, you saw 40% support for this ballot measure. And in other districts, you saw over 70% support for it. People are tired of the drug crisis. We know that San Francisco has one of the worst drug crises in the entire nation. We know that we have about 8,000 people struggling with homelessness on the street, and that number is actually probably much higher. And we know that at least half, if not up to 80% of them, are struggling with drug addiction. And this will be a first step in putting a stop to the government and our taxpayer dollars subsidizing their drug addiction and really enriching drug dealers. because, look, I'm formerly homeless. You know that. I was on the street in 2018. I was receiving general assistance benefits when I was on the street. And we would all wait until 10 o'clock on the last day of the month to go to the ATM and withdraw our money with a drug dealer literally standing next to us, waiting to take that money to give us our heroin and fentanyl. So the idea here that this is in some way cruel is false. It's a push to try to get people into drug treatment and into recovery, which is a good thing. And this is something that our voters in San Francisco, our Democratic voters in San Francisco, have agreed with. And so here we are. Oh, there's only about 600 people in San Francisco that are receiving general assistance benefits right now. And each one of them gets somewhere between $100 and $700 a month, plus food stamps and Medi-Cal health insurance. Okay. And we estimate that about half of the people that have applied for general assistance don't even live in San Francisco County. They actually migrated here from another regional county to access cheap drugs, to live on the street without anyone bothering them, and to get free money from the government to support their drug habit. So that required us to actually to pivot and take a different approach, which is what Prop F is. Does it require sobriety in order to receive general assistance? No, and that's pretty well established in California legislation that would be kind of cruel to do that. At least that's how our current government views it. But there's nothing that says that we can't put some accountability measures in place to help people access treatment. The bottom line is that when I was on the street in 2018, everybody that I knew on the street, and I mean everybody, I'm not exaggerating, was on drugs. Okay. And I walk the streets now, and I've talked to thousands of people on the street in my advocacy work in the last 5 years. And almost everyone that I talk to is on drugs. Does that mean everyone's on drugs? No. But many of these folks are, and many of them are accessing this general assistance, about 600 of them. And, San Francisco is just done subsidizing their drug addiction, and they want people to access treatment. And it's a clear signal that San Francisco is ready to embrace recovery as part of the solution to our homeless crisis. I was part of it in a kind of an independent way, and that I just lent my support and platform to supporting Proposition F from passing. But this idea, Prop F, Prop E, they came from the mayor's office, from Mayor London Breed's office. As you know, this is an election year. She's in a fight for her job. She's running for re-election, and it's going to be a very difficult race for her, as there are two other moderates also running for mayor. And it looks like another progressive is going to jump into the race too, to muddle things further. And San Francisco has ranked choice voting, so it really kind of becomes a roll of the dice as to how the electorate is going to support, who they're going to support as their first choice, second choice, third choice, etc. So she knows that she's in a tough fight, and she has very smartly pivoted towards the center on the issues of homelessness and drugs. A couple of weeks ago, we, the recovery community, about 200 of us did a march in San Francisco, a march against fentanyl, where we marched from the Tenderloin down to City Hall, and we held a rally on the steps of City Hall calling for more treatment and accountability to close down the open drug markets that you see on videos and on the news all the time in San Francisco that has really hurt and harmed our reputation as a great city. And the mayor came out and spoke, and she talked about how, in her view, harm reduction, the way it's being implemented in San Francisco, is not working, which was music to my ears and to many of us in the recovery community that have been saying that this radical interpretation of harm reduction, this approach where we're giving out free drug paraphernalia to people, free crack pipes, free foil and straws to smoke their fentanyl, is actually a form of enablement and not a form of recovery, and that people are dying anyway. So where's the drug treatment? Where is the accountability to help people get off the street and get into drug treatment? And so this was part of her platform, I guess, to help support her reelection by putting these ballots on the ballot, putting these measures on the ballot. And so it was really her idea, and we were happy to get behind it because it just makes sense. It just makes sense. As someone in recovery from addiction like myself, it's like, look, accountability is a cornerstone of recovery. So you have to have certain guardrails in place to help people move in that direction. So, for a long time in San Francisco, the progressives have been highly organized, and they always turn out to vote, and they've been well funded. We know that a lot of their funding comes from the Soros Foundation. We know a lot of their funding comes from the from the Real Justice Political Action Committee, which are deeply progressive or even democratic socialist organizations that give a lot of money to support really far left or hard left ideas. And they've been winning election after election after election in this town. This year was the first year where the moderates, I guess you could say, or just progressives that want public safety, decided to organize. And they built out a few different groups, the San Francisco Democrats for Change, Together SF Action, Grow SF, which are two of those are political action committees. Another one is just a coalition of people that were running to try to change the direction of the Democratic Party. And that's the key. In this city, in San Francisco, the key is organization and funding. They really were able to raise a lot of money. The tech industry really kicked in a lot of money to help move the direction of San Francisco from the radical left back towards the center. And these groups are full of really young, exciting, new politicians. Many of the, one of the leaders of that San Francisco Democrats for Change is Matt Dorsey, who's currently a supervisor in San Francisco, who's also in recovery. And I really support him because he's really done a lot for the recovery community in San Francisco. And it's just kind of like a breath of fresh air from the same tired kind of radical lefty tropes that you keep hearing about equity and inclusion and, all this other stuff around decriminalization. And it's just nice and refreshing to move away from that to a more pragmatic approach to the social issues that we're facing in San Francisco. What I'm hoping is this election will build momentum for November, because November is the big election. Of course, that's when we elect a president. We're going to be electing a new mayor in San Francisco, either London Breed again or someone new. There's going to be more ballot propositions. We have 5 of the 11 seats for the Board of Supervisors or City Council that are up for grabs. And the moderates have a really great chance of reining control of the Board of Supervisors away from the progressives. And when that happens, then all the narratives that I talk about in my advocacy will start to become more relevant in the conversation around how to address the homeless and drug crisis in San Francisco and how to promote public safety in San Francisco. Our downtown is sitting about 40% vacant right now, our office buildings. We never bounced back from the pandemic. And nobody wants to come in and invest new business and industry in our downtown San Francisco, so we need to kind of reimagine it. But before we can reimagine it and have all these utopian ideals of how we want our new downtown to look, we need to clean up the streets. We need to have public safety. We need to reduce the homeless crisis. We need to stop or slow down the overdose deaths that we're seeing. We had 813 OD deaths in San Francisco last year. It hangs like a cloud over our head in this city. We need to work on those things to reinvigorate and generate confidence that San Francisco is back and that it is on a rebound and that it's heading for a boom. And so this election in November is going to mean a lot towards that. So I hope that what the results of last Tuesday will build on that momentum going forward.